Hello everyone, I'm Aimi, a final year undergraduate student from the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, and I will be presenting to you on my study entitled Measuring Digital Competence, Pre-Service Teachers' Readiness for Online Teaching. Right, so this is an outline of my presentation. I'll first state the issue, the problem statement, then I'll move on to the literature background of my study, the methodology, and then I'll discuss my results before concluding. So here's an introduction. I would like to introduce you to the term emergency remote teaching, which is basically the shift of face-to-face teaching to online teaching due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this is when teachers drastically have to acquire competencies such as creating content for online teaching, learning new delivery platforms, understanding and attempting online pedagogies, and also engaging with parents. But there is an issue. What is the issue? The issue is, according to some researchers, in-service teachers, especially novice teachers, they struggled to adapt in online teaching. Some research even claim that it is due to the lack of digital competence development in teachers during their teacher training that contribute to the challenges that they are facing in adapting to online teaching. So this is worth looking out for. All right, so according to my readings, I have identified some research gaps that there are not a lot of research currently on pre-service teachers' current digital competence levels and their perceptions on which or what digital competence skills should be included in their teacher training programs. So to provide a context for my study, I will now discuss on the literature background. This is the working definition of digital competence for my study. It is taken from the DigComp.edu framework by Rediker and Puny, 2017, which defines digital competence as the confidence, critical, creative use of ICT to achieve goals related to work, employability, learning, leisure, inclusion, and/or participation in society. Now, this is the the underlying framework that I used for my study, which is the European Framework for Digital Competence of Educators, or DigComp.edu for short. This framework listed the six areas of digital competence, as you can see from the screen, and it is divided into three main subsections, which is number one, educators' professional competencies, and the next one, educators' pedagogic competencies, and finally, the learner's competencies. So from this DigComp.edu framework, there is a online self-assessment check-in where teachers can go to the website, answer 22-item questionnaire, and they will be provided a score which will place them into a digital competence bands or level, which is what I'm showing to your screen right now. It is the DigComp.edu proficiency bands or levels, and it ranges from A1 to C2. A1 being the lowest level and C2 being the highest. So once you have done the self-assessment tool in the website, you will be given a score. And then if you score below 20, then you are at the A1 level, which means that these are descriptors, which means that you have little experience or contact with digital technology and you need continuous support and guidance to improve digital competence level. So yeah, you can see A2, the score is between 20 to 33, and for integrated level or B1 level, the score is between 34 to 49. And the descriptor is that people who score between 34 and 49, they experiment with digital technologies in different contexts and for a range of purposes when lesson planning. They are eager to expand knowledge on which digital technologies tools work best in various situations. Unfortunately, they also make little reflection and adaptation when using digital technologies in lessons. Then we have the higher band of higher levels of the bands, which is B2, C1, and C2, and these are the descriptors. Right. So, according to previous studies that underlies my study, is that according to this study by Gallego Arfa et al. I'm sorry. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Pre-service teachers are at medium digital risk. And according to other studies, in 2017 and 2021, teachers are at average or basic intermediate level of digital competence. Now, we wish that, or our hopes is that to have teachers who are more than just at the basic intermediate level. Now, these studies are actually using the DigComp EDU or DigComp framework. Right. So next we have another study that claims that Turkish pre-service teachers, they suggest that collaboration with experienced teachers can help with their digital competence. Hence, this is my research objective. I would like to I investigated, my research objectives were to investigate online teaching readiness of pre-service teachers based on self-assessment tool, and also their suggestions on how their teacher training program could help develop pre-service teachers' digital competence during their teacher training. Now, here are my research questions. I have two. The first one is, according to the DigComp EDU Digital Competency Self-Assessment Tool, to what extent are pre-service teachers ready to teach online based on their digital competence scores or proficiency level? And then research question two is, what are the pre-service teachers' suggestions on how their teacher training program can assist to the DigComp EDU area they need help most? Alright, now let's move on to the methodology of my study. My study adopts a positivist view of research, hence it adopts the quantitative research method. And my sampling method, I used opportunity sampling technique, and which means that I seek out for year 1, 2, 3 undergraduate pre-service teachers in a private university in Selangor who has less than 1 year of online teaching experience. For my research instrument, I adapted the DigComp EDU check-in self-assessment tool. And for data analysis, I used RStudio to create a descriptive statistics table. And also, I created a table of the summary of pre-service teachers' answers or suggestions. Oh, excuse me. Right. So here are some adaptations that I did to my questionnaire. So the first is I excluded 4 questions from the original self-assessment tool that only practicing teachers could answer. For example, like questions regarding keeping students' grades through digital technologies. So I know this affects the scoring. However, what I did was I assumed that the pre-service teachers score 0 for the excluded questions. And next adaptation, the second adaptation is that some words such as parents were removed from the questions because the pre-service teachers in my study have not yet any experience with parents. So this is the structure of my adapted questionnaire. Instead of 22 items like the original DigComp EDU self-assessment tool, I have 18 items which are close-ended. And there are 2 to 4 questions per area. For part 2 of the questionnaire, there were 6 close-ended MCQ questions on suggestions on how the program outliners or their teacher training program can improve pre-service teachers' digital competence in the 6 areas, and the answer options for the 6 close-ended questions are competencies taken from the DigComp EDU framework. And finally, part 3 of the questionnaire is the participants' background questions. Okay, so for the scoring method, I adopted the same DigComp EDU self-assessment tool scoring method, which is basically for each question, there are 5, for part 1, at least for part 1 of my questionnaire, for each question, there are 5 answer options, and each answer options carry a score, and the score will be accumulated in the end. So this is the timeline for my, So this is the timeline for my study, and it is pretty recent. In January to March 2021, I sent out my email invitations to my target participants and I waited for responses. In April, I did my data analysis and my poster presentation, and finally in May, I submitted my full final year project report. Right, now I'll move on to the results and discussion. Okay, so for my results for RQ1, research question 1 was, to what extent are pre-service teachers ready to teach online based on their current digital competence proficiency level? I found out that the participants or pre-service teachers in my study, they are at the A2 to B2 level. They range from A2 to B2 level, and 68.9% of pre-service teachers in my study are at a B1 level. B1 is the integrator level, and this indicates that my participants are at the experimental stage with technologies, and it also implies that they are not yet confident with their digital skills to collaborate with others. This is a box plot representing my data for the pre-service teacher scores for each area. All right, now this is the descriptive statistics table that I generated using our Studio software. All right, moving on to RQ2. So my second research question is basically on what are the pre-service teachers' suggestions on how their teacher training program can assist to the DigComp EDU area that they need help the most. So the first 3 areas is what you're seeing on your screen right now. So for professional engagement, 22 out of 45 participants in the study actually said that they would like to learn most on how to reflect, critically assess, and actively develop one's own digital pedagogical practice. For Area 2, digital resources, 26 of them, I think there were 3 competencies in this Area 2 that was suggested by DigComp Edu framework. And the most selected answer option is this for Area 2, which is how to select digital resources and planning their use. And this is very relevant even to practicing teachers. So it is very understandable that pre-service teachers would choose this answer option. Right, and for Area 3, teaching and learning, the answer option or the competency that my participants chose most was on how to use digital technologies to support self-regulated learning process. All right, moving on to Area 4, 5, and 6. Area 4, 5, and 6. So for Area 4, there were actually 75.56% of them, or 34 out of 45 of my pre-service teachers in my study selected that they would like to learn most on how to generate, select, critically analyze, and interpret digital evidence on learner activity, performance, and progress to inform teaching and learning. So this actually informs teacher trainers or teacher training programs that pre-service teachers in my study, they would want to know how to interpret or generate digital evidence of the learner's progress, and how to use that data to inform them of their teaching and learning. So I would suggest teacher trainers or teacher training programs to maybe collaborate with schools, with experienced teachers, and have these pre-service teachers to talk with in-service teachers and just ask questions on how do these experienced teachers generate and interpret digital evidence of learners' activities and progress, and how to use and understand that data to improve teaching and learning. All right, so for area 5, 26 out of 45 participants chose that they would like to learn most on how to use digital technologies to address learners' diverse needs. And for area 6, only 15 of them chose on the competency on how to empower learners to use digital competence safely and responsibly. Right, moving on to my research limitations and future recommendations. The first limitation is my study was done at a small sample and a small scope. They were only done on it was only done on pre-service teachers who studied at a private university. So I would suggest for future studies to include more participants and maybe, make a comparison of private and public universities pre-service teachers, especially TESOL language teachers in Malaysia. Right, my second limitation is bias. In any self-assessment questionnaire, I realized that I do acknowledge that there is a bias. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to make or collect qualitative data on my pre-service teachers' reasons for their selected answers in for the questionnaire. So I would like so I would like to recommend for future studies to include qualitative data on pre-service teachers' rationales on their selected answer options in the self-assessment to get more richer data. And finally, the third limitation, which I think is quite important, is questions validity. Even though I got my adapted questionnaire cleared by my supervisor, the questions might not work as they intended to. So I would like to echo Cabero Almanara et al.'s recommendation for future studies to create a digital competence assessment tool especially designed for pre-service teachers to measure their digital competence. And I'm actually thinking of using this opportunity to create to create a digital competence assessment tool for pre-service teachers for my master's. So yeah, it's something to look for in the future. Right, so this is a takeaway message for my study. It is now known that the pre-service teachers in my study scored from level A2 to B2. Now my study should inform teacher training programs on which competencies should they include in their teacher training program. And I would like to also suggest that my study was based on DigComp EDU framework. Hence, I would like to suggest to curriculum makers out there to incorporate the DigComp EDU framework in their teacher training curriculum. Right. That concludes my study. Thank you for listening. You can contact me through my social media and my email as well. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I now open for questions. Thank you.